There are some states whose citizens can sacrifice for the sake of their national interests. They can abandon taking tea, they can consume less quantity of milk, only as much as allowed as per quota. And on other side there are some states whose citizens can't close shops and shopping malls early, even though in that way they can benefit state without compromising their own personal interest. State resources are saved without losing their own interest. But even then, they are not ready to compromise. Then, what's that keep citizens' interests aligned along with national interests? And how this sentiment can be fomented? And how this sentiment became reason of development of a number of countries? Well, the answer is healthy nationalism. By healthy, we mean balanced one. A balanced nationalism should be at least that much that it can force citizens to renounce their personal interests when it comes in contrast with national interests. But on other side, it should not be so unchecked that it can take form of aggressive patriotism or jingoism or chauvinism. Nation states came into existence in 1648 after Treaty of Westphalia. Before that, state borders used to be fluid. So after concept of nation states emerged, it has become mandatory for states that they can align their citizens' interests along with national interests. Successful states have successfully fomented this sentiment, who not only channelized this sentiment of nationalism but utilized for development of country. China is a very fine such example, whose citizens have gone up to a greater extent to sacrifice for country. Even today, Chinese hardly consume milk. This nationalism played a very pivotal role for China's progress. But situation was not so since always. It said that very few overseas Chinese students returned back to China, fewer than expectations of their leader, Deng Xiaoping, after a speech of 1978. But then some events occurred which speed up their process of becoming one nation and spurred the sentiment of nationalism within Chinese nation. For example, Yinhe incident of 1993 forced China to come up with their own navigation system and end up dependency on US owned GPS. When a Chinese container ship was stranded in international waters for 24 days because US has blocked GPS access, and then they made their own veto. To your surprise, when Mao Zedong went to Russia, then Stalin made him wait in guest house for weeks. After alienation by West and Japan, and after withstanding century of humiliation, the Chinese nation showed extraordinary resilience and come even more closer. Books like China Can Say No was manifestation that China has its own self-respect and self-esteem. From this example, it is very much clear that nations when face common challenges, this nationalism grow naturally. Now, if leadership is sincere and competent, they can utilize it properly. Development come up with national pride and creates more nationalism, and it becomes a compounding effect. And if there is justice, merit, law and order in the country, then it remains sustainable. Just like China, Japan, and some other countries utilized it positively, on contrary, when this nationalist fervor goes unchecked, then it can take form of jingoism or chauvinism, and it can affect foreign policy and tarnish international prestige. Society can also become intolerant towards minorities and become fragmented. For example, Hindutva in India is an example of such an aggressive nationalism. Mob lynching, demolition of mosques, and forced conversions under Ghar Wapsi are so much common in news these days. Now, how can developing countries benefit from nationalism? These countries are usually mired in balance of payment crisis, trade deficits. Shortly, it means they spend more and earn less. Nationalism can urge their citizens to reduce burden of imports and utilize domestic products, even though they have to compromise on quality or pay equal prices. And for that, there must be input from top and bottom both. From top in the form of deliverance, justice, rule of law, and from bottom in the form of hard work and dedication. That's all. Thank you very much.